Over 200 experts have shared their secrets to a successful business. Join me, Rose Davidson, as I discover how these experts took their businesses to the next level.
Talking with the experts.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. Talking about all things business by business owners for business owners. Welcome to episode number 247 with Kristy-Ann Waugh.
And I love that, Rose. And we have a principle or a presupposition in NLP, and it's called the law of requisite variety. And what it actually presupposes is the person or system with the most behavioural flexibility will survive, essentially. So those that were able to pivot and adapt and apply this behavioural flexibility, their businesses survived and have subsequently thriving. I'm working with some clients who's had growth in excess of 30% year on year in the last 2 years of the pandemic, because it forced them to pivot from a 100% face-to-face training platform to virtual delivery, which has expanded their global reach. So yeah, it's just about looking at things, embracing opportunity. As one of my mentors says, crisis creates opportunity. You know, are you the victim or the victor? Or are you going to take this test and create a testimony from it? So that's one thing with NLP, and NLP, I guess, being neuro-linguistic programming, being neuro the mind, linguistic language and programming the patterns or behaviors we run in life. It's all around awareness.
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosesdavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today it's my very great pleasure to introduce you to Kristy-Ann Waugh. And Kristy-Ann is passionate about growth and development and has been coined an education junkie and alumni of the University of Life. She has a multidisciplinary business background spanning over 20 years, and she doesn't look that old, trust me, in both public and private enterprise. Kristy-Ann has worked across several industries, including government, defence, finance, recruitment, consulting, training, education, utilities, domestically and internationally. She holds a diploma of business, is a student of positive psychology, a recognised credentialed advanced practitioner of coaching, a certified trainer, consultant, and master coach of NLP, certified master practitioner of timeline therapy. Oh, that's one of my favourite therapies. I like that. Mm-hmm. Certified master hypnotherapist. Oh, clinical. And is an international speaker and an Amazon #1 best-selling author. Welcome, Kristy-Ann. Thank you so much for joining me all the way from Perth.
Thank you, Rose. It's an absolute delight to be with you here today.
Yes, we have never actually met, I don't think. I mean, we have, yes, at boot camp. At Speakers
we do have a number of common threads, common touch points.
We do, yes. Yeah. Australia's such a small place sometimes, isn't it?
It is, even though you're there in Tassie and I'm here in WA.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Anyway, so tell me a little bit more about why you are an education junkie.
Oh, I just have such a yearn to learn. In all my profiles, learner comes up. In the Gallup strengths, it's #2. To achiever being #1. In the VIA strengths, it's #1. I just believe, you're always learning, you're always evolving. You're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. So I choose green and growing. But the more I learn, the more I realise I have more to learn or how much I don't know. So, and the more I know, the more wisdom and insight that I have to impart to others.
Yes, I know you are an absolute delight. I know you're so softly spoken, and the times that we've had some interactions, and you're so smart. I just don't know.
Oh, thank you, Rose. You're so kind.
So how do you use your NLP and timeline therapy and hypnosis in your business?
Yep. So after a 20-year collective career in the Royal Australian Navy and the corporate workforce, I transitioned full-time into my own coaching and therapy practice. I decided to take all of the knowledge skills coupled with my lived experience, the knowledge skills, etc., that you touched on earlier and to found my own coaching and therapy practice. I founded it in July 2018 and transitioned full-time in February 2019. Now, my new alignment, my passion to purpose, I guess, was born out of a series of life-defining moments. At 20 years old, I received a prognosis of 24 hours to live, which I survived, 3 hospitals and 7 months of treatment and rehabilitation. Later, I returned to work in a different capacity. And that was really the catalyst for all of my personal development. And that really ignited the flame for me, hence all of the subsequent studies I did to better understand my condition and that difference that made the difference in terms of my survival. In 2013 and 2014, after my heroic husband had fought for so long for his psychological well-being, he was diagnosed with clinical depression. And I guess that was where my new profession was born. Like, he was a marvelous source of inspiration. And so I thought I would take all of that knowledge, skills, and experience, and rather than implementing it in business improvement, executive coaching, leadership development, etc., in the corporate world, I would found my own business, which I did. I use NLP significantly, and you did mention that you're a lover of timeline therapy. So resourceful, such a great modality to remove the emotional attachment from events in the past, because as you can appreciate, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control the meaning we give it. The only meaning anything has is the meaning we give it. So there's such value in going back to these events, looking at it from different perspectives, identifying, gleaning and garnering the positive learnings from what may have been perceived as quite a traumatic event at the time, minimizing or removing the emotional attachment to it and moving forward more resourcefully. So should we be triggered in the future, we don't respond unresourcefully as we would have perhaps in the past.
And I think for business owners, NLP, timeline therapy, should be one of the staples of the small business courses that they undertake, because I think, especially in the last couple of years, a lot of people have been forced to turn their whole business around, turn their whole working life around from being a bricks and mortar place to something that's online. And a lot of people aren't tech savvy. They're not.
Absolutely. And I love that, Rose. And we have a principle or a presupposition in NLP. And it's called the law of requisite variety. And what it actually presupposes is the person or system with the most behavioral flexibility will survive, essentially. So those that were able to pivot and adapt and apply this behavioral flexibility, their businesses survived and have subsequently thriving. I'm working with some clients who's had growth in excess of 30% year on year in the last 2 years of the pandemic, because it forced them to pivot from a 100% face-to-face training platform to virtual delivery, which has expanded their global reach. So yeah, it's just about looking at things, embracing opportunity. As one of my mentors says, crisis creates opportunity. Are you the victim or the victor? Or are you going to take this test and create a testimony from it? So that's one thing with NLP. And NLP, I guess, being neuro-linguistic programming, being neuro the mind, linguistic language and programming the patterns or behaviors we run in life. It's all around awareness. Awareness is 95% of the journey. When we know better, we can do better. So it's about identifying those unresourceful thoughts, patterns, or behaviors and redirecting them. Are they life enhancing? Are they life detracting? Are they going to move us toward our goals? Are they going to feed our future or feed our fears and keep us stuck?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the ones that didn't decide to change direction of their business, because I really dislike that word pivot.
Likewise, it's so overused.
It certainly is. It reminds me of one of those little, things that you have on a skipping rope or something.
Let's just say, we readjusted our sails, or it's that 1 millimeter shift.
That's it. Yeah. Well, no, I've got to come up with a different word. But anyway, yeah, the ones that couldn't, because they couldn't see the wood for the trees, basically. And sometimes I think, and I don't mean to be cruel, but sometimes I think people are a little bit lazy with it. They won't look outside the box or outside the square, and they just want to stay cloistered in this little comfort zone thing, and they won't crawl their way out to see what's down the road. And it's unfortunate that people have become like that, and being online too. I mean, in the last 2 years, Zoom, as people didn't use it very often, and now it's like an everyday thing for everybody, because they've had no other way to communicate with friends, family, work colleagues, or whatever. So I think the pandemic has brought the world closer in some ways and then split them apart in others. But, the virtual world now is just an amazing place. I love it. That's why how the podcast was born. I could see people as business owners were very challenged with, finding ideas to change their businesses around. And, with my, great heart and all that sort of thing, I thought, well, I just can't let this happen. It's not right.
And I want to acknowledge, validate, and celebrate you on that. This podcast has been a brilliant initiative, and it's a great vehicle to connect. And if I can backtrack a slight bit, I really love your sentiments that people can't see the forest for the trees. We're so bogged down in detail. You talk about the comfort zone, complacency kills. It's outside the comfort zone that magic happens. And what I've really noticed with a lot of my clients is that rigidity, that resistance to change. But more than that, are people, do they have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Are we fixed in our ways, set in our ways, have a resistance to change, which is the majority of the population, by the way, or those that are willing to embrace the uncertainty? Because on the other side of uncertainty is opportunity. On the other side of opportunity is growth. And you're the epitome of that. You're an example of that through founding this podcast, for example.
Oh, thank you so much. That's lovely. I'm all blushy now.
No. Well, if not for you, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Absolutely not. No. So I know you're a very optimistic person, Kristy-Ann. So, and you love helping people to transform from what they were into what you can see they can be, which is, a wonderful thing to be able to help people with. So tell me how you help your clients do that.
So I have an innate belief that my clients have all the resources they need to succeed. They've just mislaid them. So I think of myself as an age-old sage, as a guide. So essentially I'm there to reconnect them to those mislaid resources. I really support and enable my clients to let go of those limiting beliefs, those limitations, to release the unresolved negative emotion, to overcome the fears, the phobias, the trauma, the emotional attachment to events in the past. That in and of itself creates a whole heap of space for them to start manifesting and attracting and creating a life they love, as opposed to being stooped and steeped into the trauma of the past.
It's difficult when you come up against people that are so rigid in their thinking, and as I said, they can't see the wood for the trees because they just don't see opportunity. They just see barriers.
Yeah. It's about people, harnessing and taking back their personal power to realizing their infinite potential. And the way I do that, essentially a coaching framework that I use, if you think metaphorically speaking of the Harbour Bridge, one pylon. So I would elicit where they are. I call it the present state. What's their current pain point, problem, goal, or objective? And then their desired state. What do they want instead? Then I ask a series of questions through elegant questioning. I identify the interferences, the roadway. What is that unresourceful thought, pattern, behavior? Is it self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, self-doubt, nail biting? Is it, fluctuating weight, whatever that is? And we all know that the resulting behavior is not the problem. It's the thought that created the problem in the first place. So it's a matter of really digging deep and identifying, getting beyond that surface problem, which is the thing that's not taboo to speak about, and identifying what's really going on and removing that root cause, that emotional attachment, and providing them then with the, so using interventions to close that gap, to move them from where they are to where they want to be, remove all the interferences, and then to provide them with the superstructure, strategies and resources for sustainable change. Because I'm about creating transformational change, but for it to be sustainable. And I guess that's the flaw with like psychology or psychotherapy or some counseling and other modalities, and not to suggest they're any better or worse, but I find like a PT, for example, the presenting problem is that someone's overweight. The desired state is they want to lose 20 kilos per se, just say for argument's sake. So you get a nutrition plan, you get a gym routine, you lose the weight, and then someone or something may trigger that client outside of them, and so they revert back to the comfort eating because they have not yet been given or provided or the accountability for that sustainable change. So that's where I really hold my clients accountable and support and enable that long-term transformation.
Yeah, I can imagine you'd be a really
not assertive, with a big enough why. A lot of my clients know what they want.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to get there.
No,
And that's where
the majority of
value.
the human race, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all grown up like that. And we're trying to foster better citizens in the future, I hope. So
absolutely. Humans being better humans.
That's it. Absolutely. So, Kristy-Ann, please tell me about your books or book.
Oh, wow. So I had, in light of the pandemic, I did not hit all of my goals, even though I am a coach. I did have to embrace that behavioral flexibility and re-navigate alternative paths. I kind of consider an obstacle as a detour in the right direction. I never anticipated or entertained the idea of being a public author, particularly last year. I didn't anticipate I was at that point in my career. I found myself in 5 months of hotel lockdown in Sydney, which obviously some of my goals and objectives were impacted significantly. I was approached by a publishing house in India to co-author a book last May, and I was actually quite traumatized, mortified. I experienced a whole milkshake of emotions came up when this opportunity was presented to me, because I knew that it would evoke a lot of emotion from past events, from those life-defining moments I touched on earlier in the conversation, my prognoses, my husband, other bits and pieces. And through the journey, it was just such a cathartic journey. It was such an empowering journey. It was such an inspiring journey. And the reason I chose to embrace this opportunity for the first book was because I really, really resonated with the title, I Am Possible, Stories of Grit and Perseverance. And I really believed that if I could take my lived experience, something that I had so much pain, shame, grief, guilt, hurt, loss, sacrifice attached to, and tell it in an inspiring, empowering way, that my story could be the very key to unlock someone else's prison.
Absolutely, yeah.
I feel it's not our stories that define us, but how we share them that do. And it wasn't until the first time that I shared my story openly and transparently and embraced my vulnerability back in 2018 that I really realized the gravitas and the power of story. And in fact, it amplified the volume of clients I had, because people resonated with that. And they could see the congruence and the authenticity in my vision, in my mission, my connection to why I do what I do. Because I've had that transformational change myself. I've got the knowledge, skills, but I've got that lived experience. And I guess that's one of my unicorns, is that not only can I sympathize, but I can deeply, deeply empathize with a number of my clients on a number of levels. So that was book one. So I'm Possible, Stories of Grit and Perseverance was launched on the 13th of August and went to #1 Amazon bestseller on the 15th of August. So that was very exciting. I became a #1 Amazon co-author, and then I had my opportunity to co-author in my second international book last year. I was approached by Global Influencers Publishing House out of Singapore to contribute to a book called My Voice, Stories of Self-Discovery and Resilience, which I can't share a copy because I'm still waiting on them, because it was only released on the 23rd of December. We had our book launch. It is available on Amazon, but similarly, really, really connected with the title of the book and the nature of the other co-authors that I knew that it would bring together. My co-author cohort, I feel it's such a gift to inspire through story. And knowing the caliber of the women that this would attract, again, I guess, it was another appetizer, another hook that really baited me to get involved. And Neera Gupta and Shikha, the publishers, it was just an extraordinary experience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing my book this year. I think, what you said is my story could save someone's life. So,
yeah. And it's a privilege. It gives me so much meaning and fulfillment to know that I've transformed a life, one conversation at a time, one training at a time, one presentation at a time.
One podcast at a time.
And if it be one life, my job is done, and I've done that.
Yeah.
The gratitude I've received from clients, from families, from their friends, or how humbling it is when someone turns to you in their most vulnerable moment and kind of say, if not for you, I wouldn't be here. That you gave me hope, that you believed in me, that you saw that infinite potential.
Yeah. I remember when I did boot camp, and you told me I was going to be interviewed by Ellen DeGeneres. I thought that was hilarious. But you know what
we've all got to aspire to something. You know, shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you land amongst the stars. And I don't believe in coincidence, Rose. And you may not be being interviewed by Ellen DeGeneres yet. However, look at the number of people that who are privileged to be being interviewed by you.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. Some of the people that I have interviewed have actually remained friends, and I invited them back for a second go this year. And I think out of the 45 invitations I sent out, I think I've got about 40 of them back. So I'm so happy about that. That's amazing.
Well, repeat business and referrals is some of the best feedback you can get. So congratulations.
Absolutely. So KristyAnn, where can people find you if they want to work with you? And
so
obviously you do stuff online, don't you?
I do. So I do group coaching online and obviously my one-on-one coaching. So one-on-one, small groups of one to many. So you'll find me on LinkedIn. You can contact me via email. I'm affiliated with a number of other networks, Speakers Institute, Speakers Tribe, but LinkedIn would probably be the most effective place to find me. Alternatively, I do have a Facebook account also.
Sometimes. Oh, and have you got any last words of wisdom, KristyAnn, that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Oh, wow. Words of wisdom. Where do I start? I am a lifelong learner, Rose. I could sprout a number of self-help books, self-development books, quotes and the like. You know, I guess for me, one is you're either green and growing and ripe or rotting. But one of the most profound things I think that changes lives is change your thinking, change your life. You know, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. You know, life is 10% what happens to us and 90% of how we respond. You know, are we going to choose the more resourceful option, the more life enhancing option, or are we going to live below the line? So yeah, I think, you know, life is happening for us, not to us, is another pearl of wisdom that I'd like to leave you with.
Yes, it is. It is a very good friend shared that with me once, and I didn't get the idea of it. I had to actually Google to see what it meant, and and she was quite correct in saying that. Just because something bad happens to you, it's a learning opportunity for better growth. So yeah.
Yeah, I look at it that, you know, everything is a gift. There's always a learning, an insight, a reflection to be had.
Absolutely. Well, KristyAnn, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you and to get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely. I look forward to connecting in the future, Rose. Thank you.
Thanks, KristyAnn. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Talking with the experts.